One of the first videos I did on this channel when I was moving towards tech was a small video on stickies. Since then, several more people have also done a video on stickies. But in that video, I hovered my cursor over the dead but not forgotten launchpad, and another app made an appearance, and this was Grapher. Grapher, unlike what I assumed about stickies, is really an app nobody uses. But in today's video, I intend to show my small audience its powers, its history, and some possible uses someone can get out of this at a pinch. Before we get started, let's thank our wonderful channel members for making this content easier to make. You are all pretty special and I really appreciate the support. What can Grapher even do? Well, as the name suggests, it can graph. Graph what, you may ask? Well, it can graph mathematical functions. Now, some of you may hear this and think, well, what's the big deal? The TI-84 I had to buy for 7th grade algebra can graph things too. And I can actually use that in class. I can't just pull out a MacBook in class and say I'm doing my math. And you're right. The TI-84 that we all had to use can do this. But I think there's another thing Grapher can do that your little TI-84 can't do. And that's graph and cut. I mean, it can graph in 3D. Yes, to me at least, this is a nice little function of the software that's pretty cool. I hope the kid who asked about 3D graphs for more advanced data sets is jumping of glee at the opportunity to do this. What a nerd. As for 2D graphing, it's pretty legit. We can graph all the functions you can think of, like quadratics and all that stuff, like f of x, all that can be done here. As for 3D graphing, it's also pretty cool. You can make the axis spin like a helicopter. I like this. This alone could keep me entertained. Now look at this cool cone I made, it's pretty legit. Here's the function if you want to remake it. Here's x to the third. Now I don't know much about 3D graphing, so here are some examples they got on here. This one's called contours, and I really like it. I had changed one of the exponents from 2 to 5, and it changed drastically. Like, this is actually kind of fun. Aside from chess, this may be the best pre-built game on macOS. Now look at this really cool example. It's called a toroid or something like that. It's pretty trippy, like something you'd see off of like Tool. This is legitimately cool, and the rest are also really cool. And wow, so this was unexpected, but I ran into my first error with the software. And the app crashed on me when closing out of some of these windows. I don't know if there is sensitive info in this report that can expose me, so you guys only get the top window. Still not very promising for the app to crash. But that's it for how the app works, or really its powers, as I stated in the thesis. But what about the history of the app? Why did Apple feel that users needed a graphing application in macOS Tiger? Well, before it was added in Tiger, we should talk about another app made for System 7 called Graphing Calculator. I would show this over Basilisk 2, but somehow I messed up the installation so badly that literally nothing will work. And this isn't a video on Calculator or stickies, so I have to resort to using images. The first iteration of Grapher was called Graphing Calculator, and came bundled with the Power Max in 1994. This software was developed in secret by Ron Vitzer and Greg Robbins. Ron actually has his own website where he talks about the app in great detail. He didn't even work at Apple. When they first tested the application, the monitor blew up. This wasn't a fault of the software, the monitor was just junk. He really, seriously did not work at Apple and would just coast into the building to work on the project. I don't know how much of this is really true, but I'll link his website down below. But what did happen is one night at like 2 a.m., someone came in and was like, hey, I'm in charge of the master disks for all the software that gets shipped on the machine. So Ron was like, oh, that's great. I got some good software for you. And he continued to work on Graphing Calculator further in secret at Apple. Everyone kept this secret that he told, and eventually Ron was able to meet with the director of the software for the PowerPC. And this guy was the son of a math educator and saw the importance of graphing software on Mac. And, as we know, the software did make it on the Mac. Some pretty cool history for the app that I doubt a ton of people really know about. I surely didn't. Now, Graphing Calculator went off to have its own Windows release as well, under a different name. At the end of his story, he says this, and I think this is just great. Graphing Calculator went on to evolve into what we have today, and it was officially added into macOS in 10.4 Tiger. Now, for how Grapher is today, well, there sure isn't really much to add. It graphs, so I think that section's just fine to gloss over. It has a dark and a light mode, but here's something that I think is interesting. I personally don't see the need for this type of app to exist anymore. Now hear me out. Back when Tiger was released, to my knowledge, there wasn't any big online graphing calculator software that was web-based and free. Most students today are using web tools since they're more accessible and all their friends are using them. Grapher is part of a bygone era when people use software-based applications to do graphing instead of web-based applications, or the school-issued TI-84 graphic calculator. Speaking of these calculators, you can do a ton on them now. I remember when I was 14, I would play Oregon Trail on my old TI-84 Plus CE or whatever it was called. It was really cool. So that's it for Grapher, I guess. This has to be the most unused app on macOS by far. And maybe I've just awoken the Grapher crowd, and they'll all be in the comments freaking out over how I called it ignored, but the truth, I think, is nobody is seriously using this app. I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. It was very interesting and fun to make. If you enjoy this type of content, then stick around for some more. I usually just do tech videos, but I got some more out there stuff coming down the pipeline, so I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.